It's going to be able to have 10 basketball courts. It will be convertible to 16 volleyball courts. This entire facility from an indoor perspective will be about 100,000 square feet. One of the other aspects that's going to be in this facility, which is community focused, is really this concept of the learning center that Carlene talks about very fondly. Think of the community center being a nonprofit organization within the complex that's almost like your modern day Boys and Girls Club component. Where do the kids go after school where they may not necessarily have any sort of programming to go to? Carlene and her team is going to be very much engaged in, from a learning center perspective, being able to provide a lot of community give back type of activities. One of the other things that the complex is going to focus on is health and wellness. When I go back to the east side of Charlotte, maybe they're there, I don't see a lot of health type of initiatives that are being brought forward. Part of the sports complex will have a health component. Essentially, obviously, there are going to be a component where a multi-skeletal type of thing, where if someone gets hurt or injured or rehab, they can go to this facility and get all of those types of services. There's also going to be a large strength and conditioning component associated with it as well. We're also in conversations about bringing in some turf and having indoor turf. So Brad will focus on outdoor turf. Our indoor turf won't necessarily be competing with Brad's outdoor turf. It's going to be more so tied to some of the health and wellness components as it relates to the complex itself. So this, and when we talk about this complex, there's a lot of different questions that I'm sure you guys have. When you think about it from our standpoint right now, we're working with the city on the development agreement. The development agreement, if you think about this is a public-private partnership. Part of the funding is going to come from public dollars. Part of the funding is going to come from the private dollars. And so we're working with the city on that respective agreement. And we're going through this process now. We're really working on the infrastructure. As you guys know, that Eastland area is being currently developed by Crosland Southeast, but the 29.5 acres that we're talking about today, that infrastructure has been started, but not started in the sense of what we're looking to design. So we're working with an architect firm to help us with those design layouts. We'll be going to bid shortly. We're working with different GCs to be able to have an opportunity for GCs to present, to be able to be our GC for the infrastructure. We'll do something similar for the indoor complex as well. But just to give you some perspective on a timeline, we're looking to break ground mid-spring. So meaning that that's going to be the time period where we're looking to have the infrastructure really, as guys would say in the industry, the dirt start moving at the site. And so I think that is really, really key just from you guys' perspective to know that timelines are our consideration and the end-to-end complex will be developed over that duration. We think the infrastructure will take almost a year. 2027 is our target date. And so I wish it was here tomorrow. But really going through this process, I've really had to take a step back and take it in bits and pieces. And so right now we're in the conversations with the city to be able to formalize our agreement with the city. And we're looking to break ground in mid-spring.
Great.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Greg Asciuto. I'm the Executive Director of Charlotte East. We are a community development organization that was actually founded by the City of Charlotte in 2003 to help steer the redevelopment of the Eastland area. So it is wonderful 2 decades later to be in this position where we have a phenomenal team of partners on the private side bringing the level of prosperity and promises in terms of jobs, other economic impact that we've been waiting for actually probably close to 30 years. If I can get a poll really quickly, how many people in this room went to Eastland in the heyday? Okay. So y'all know what it meant to the community. Y'all understand for the entire ecosystem surrounding Eastland, how that business community was developed and created based off that central economic anchor. I think Robert alluded to or said explicitly some of these points, but for 20 years, our small business and economic ecosystem has really been reliant on small mom and pops to have a customer base within the community. What we've heard left and right over the years is that some of our businesses miss the kind of traffic that would come into Eastland. Y'all remember Eastland at Christmas? I mean, that was a magical time. The small businesses really relied on that influx of traffic. So when we, 2 years ago, were talking and having conversations with potential partners for the site, you know, what we had really wanted was an entity or multiple entities that were gonna bring steady inflow of year-round traffic. And I think we're absolutely ecstatic to have multiple partners, Charlotte Soccer Academy, Southern Entertainment, Edge, and Bolton Ivory Canty, that are gonna do just that and activate that site. One thing I will say, what we're doing concurrently with the support of the City of Charlotte is we are developing what we're gonna call the Greater Eastland Business District. This is gonna be 15 square mile footprint with Eastland at the center, a 2-year effort that we're doing to organize and formalize a business community to help them get ready and primed for the influx of money, influx of visitors. And I don't know, Robert, are you gonna talk about any of those numbers later? Okay. But the significant economic impact that we're gonna see. So we're getting the business community primed, getting the business community ready, trying to provide some anti-displacement efforts in place. We're just, we're ecstatic. I mean, this has been a long time coming, and we have some phenomenal partners who've been willing to invest and see the potential of the area. I mean, one thing, I don't know if it is gonna come up, but I see I see Commissioner Chair now, Mark Jarrell, in the room, and Chair Sneed of the CMS. But I'd be remiss if I did not mention, as part of this site, which isn't gonna be on this 29 acres, the Mecklenburg County has invested in creating a 4.7 acre park, which is truly gonna be something unique. Ecstatic, from a small amphitheater to multi-sport courts. If you all remember the Eastland logo, we are using that to create a 20-foot splash pad for kids coming out of that logo, which is gonna be permanently embedded in concrete. But I can ramble about this all day. We're just extremely passionate, we're excited, we're ready to go. So.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks to Brad, all of you guys. But what I wanted to do quickly, and I know Laura and Winston are going to give you an opportunity to ask questions, is to say this is an economic development opportunity. And that's why it's so close to my heart. In addition to the Learning Center, I've been in education for a while, a long while. And this is very, very important. But I'd like for everybody in here who has submitted a letter of intent or we had an opportunity to talk to please stand. If you don't stand, then I'm taking your letter out of the file today. Thank you. Laura, you can stand, all of you. Because this is very, very important that we pass this information along, because we want to give people an opportunity. No guarantee, but an opportunity. We have letters of intent, and Robert, you can talk a little bit about that, from Nike, Adidas, Puma, is that what it's called? All of those individuals who are ready to come in and start. We also are going to have, I don't know if you mentioned the Wall of Fame, so we can recognize individuals who've done great things throughout Charlotte. So again, like I said, I'm really close to the Learning Center, but there are opportunities, there will be opportunities galore for this facility. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Ivory. Now, I'm sorry, Robert, I gotta do this. Before we go to Ms. Jackie's question, I gotta put a little context about how deeply Charlotte Robert is. We grew up together, got our first jobs together. I was 11, he was 13. By the age of 14, we were both driving forklifts, getting paid under the table cash. But we kept those jobs throughout high school, and Robert has always been just a very bright, intelligent kid, and he went to Morehouse. Now, I knew, he's a couple years older than me, and I knew I never had the grades to get into Morehouse. But I told my parents we wanted to do a check out Morehouse, and we're gonna vet this, I might consider going. Meanwhile, we just wanted to go to Freaknik. So Robert has always been deeply immersed in Charlotte. He has a long history here. We've known each other our entire lives. So I just had to put that context out there so you won't think the people involved in this project just are fly by night. So, Ms. Jack, you want to start with the first question?
Yes, and I want to say that we always bought our Christmas trees from your family, Robert, along Beatty Spring Road, so that was wonderful. And also, you know, District 4 seems to always be in the spaces they need to be. So happy to have you here today. My question is, can you speak to the art of negotiating and maybe consider writing a book?
Let me tell you this, the details in the book are for.
Mr. Cannon, you gotta use the mic. We're trying to get our streaming audience.
Listen, the book is coming, so we're not gonna divulge any details today, because I've been told by a young lady sitting over here that she is gonna write a book, and the details will be in it.
So who's writing the book?
Carlene.
All right, Mr. Kuntz has a question. Jeff?
First of all, Ray, nobody has ever come in here and did an 8-year overview of anything in 6 minutes.
Hey.
You ought to be. My question is in regards to the demographic. Eastland Mall evolved because of a changing demographic. As Eastland Mall was becoming the more of the moderate to middle income area back in the early 70s, then of course, as that evolved over time, that demographic changed. And then it changed again. And it is now a different demographic from anything that we first saw, anything that led to the closing of Eastland Mall. And now, as we emerge on your project, the demographic is still changing, but we're still seeing a new phenomenon, that is the influx of people coming in. My question is, how closely are you aligned with the changing demographics? Because we've gone from basketball courts to soccer fields and other sports things. So are you monitoring, and what are you seeing in the continuing change in the demographics of Eastland area?
Great. I've been told. Is this, Robert, can you give me that one?
Can you hear me? Okay. So what we consider to be the greater Eastland area is kind of how we're carving this out. So think Eastway, the Plaza, W.T. Harrison, Independence. So roughly 70,000 folks. Demographically speaking, we have a roughly 34% Latino, 38% Black, 18% white, and around 8-9% Asian, right? So we talk about the racial demographics. I will say in the cultural demographics, there have been partners at representing either each of these business communities or houses of faith that have been engaged with these conversations that were part of our original advocacy efforts to get behind this project. I mean, it was a very expansive, I think we had roughly 1,500 individuals that were part of this engagement and advocacy process for getting this to the site. But what I will say on the side, on a different level of demographics, when we're talking about income level, right? So when we talk about that same footprint of roughly 70,000 folks, we have an average annual household income $25,000 less than Mecklenburg County average, right? We have roughly 1/3 of our families are relying on food and nutrition services. So when we speak, collectively about both the need for involvement and representation in the project itself is one piece, but as I see it, one of the biggest things that this project is going to be able to help contribute to is jobs. We really don't have employers. CMS is our largest employer in the area. And I'm extremely grateful that CMS just opened offices across from the Simmons YMCA to bring a lot of folks in, but we've been missing median paying jobs, right? And there's been this concept on the east side, specifically in Eastland, that okay, this is a working class neighborhood that we need to get our folks to the job and employment centers, right? And this has been something that's come up with these transit conversations. How do we get our folks from Central and Almar Road to Uptown, to Center City, to University City, to South Park? We really believe that this project will create and spur development in a sustainable way that allows everybody to participate. I hope that someone answers the question.
All right.
a longtime resident of East Charlotte who actually remembers before Eastland was built and remembers how the roads were clogged up during Christmas time. I want to thank each person at this table. I want to thank, and Carlenia, big applause to Carlenia because she made a believer of us. And because we know that there is a story to tell, and the negotiations were fierce. The politics was tough, and Greg, in bringing together the East Side to come behind something that we really believed in, rather than having just to say yes sir, no sir, we'll do whatever you want to do. We just want anything. That's not the way we want it to be, and he helped us to be able to move toward a vision that we came together with. So, thank you, Greg.
And Louise.
Yes.
And Louise, you helped too.
Okay. Well, there were people, the East Siders, who for years and years and years and years have worked toward this, and that's one reason I want to ask the question. One of the things that we really felt very strongly about was keeping the natural part of the Eastland site, particularly the water features, because you either pipe water under, which is what happened to Eastland, it had mold and mildew because there's natural water there, or you create the ponds or the areas where beautiful areas to take advantage of that. And as it's developed, that's one thing that it seems has been sort of left out of the overall project. So I want to know from y'all I know this is a sports area, but talk to me about what you're going to do to have a beautiful natural looking area. And then after that, if you have a chance, about scholarships.
So, your question speaks to me, because you talked about a couple of different things, and you mentioned on one thing in particular was negotiations. And so while certain things may not necessarily be apparent in the conversations that may not come forth in the conversation, you have to realize that this project is really, look at this as 100 acres. And so, as you may or may not be aware, the Parks and Rec is going to build a 4.5 acre park that's going to be adjacent to our sports complex that is built after Roman Bearden Park. That park will have a splash pad type of concept. And so if you think about that from our standpoint, we have to think about how assets compete with each other or work together or synergies together. And so that aspect of it, when you talk about an outdoor standpoint that has a splash pad type of thing, a water feature, that will be on that particular site. As it relates to an additional water feature that will be on our site, that won't necessarily be a water feature that you guys may be thinking about, but I'm gonna give you guys this little bit of a nugget. Remember at Eastland we had an ice skating rink?
Yes.
Say that again, does everybody remember the ice skating rink? Yes. So we have a partnership that's underway with the city, well not necessarily the city, but with Charlotte Soccer Academy and being able to use those outdoor fields for a temporary ice skating rink. And so there's a couple different avenues when we talk about water and how we want to bring back some of the essence of Eastland. There's that avenue as well. So if you think about the temporary ice skating rink, think about how when everyone goes down uptown to NASCAR Hall of Fame, something similar to that, right? So that's a way when we're thinking about how we're putting these respective assets into play. How do we tie back to history? Constantly in my mind, I'm thinking about how do I tie back to history? Because you can still move forward, but keep the history in mind and how you decide to move forward. And so hopefully that answers your question, but that's how we're thinking about integrating some of the features that you remember from Eastland, some of the water features.
All right, Jay Hill.
So Winston and I probably have a different experience. We remember going to Eastland Mall on Saturday night, trying to talk to girls and things like that, even though he may not want to admit that. My question
That's
is,
your story now.
but I remember in the heyday of Eastland Mall, like all cultures were there. And so you talk about that history and tying that in. You know, I live close to the university, close to North Lake Mall, and it's had its challenges. And I know that there's been a lot of thought going into the culture there. Can you talk about how we can have this space will be culturally acceptable for everyone, and still, you know, be welcoming for everyone as well?
Robert, talk about the east-west connection. Our intention is.
Oh, wait, come on, because we got a screaming audience. We got a screaming audience.
Our intention is, and has always been, because initially we wanted this on the west side.
Yes.
Greg will tell you, we've had many discussions, we've had bribes, but we wanted it on the west side, and we tried. Matter of fact, 3 of the locations, Al will tell you, were the west side. Didn't happen. But we have, and I hope this answers your question, our intention is an east-west connection, a partnership with Johnson C. Smith so the kids in the sports management can be interns at this complex. We want to make sure that that streetcar takes individuals over. We were talking about connecting the west with the east. I hope that helps, because that's our intent. Robert, you might have.
Yeah. Delete some of that page. Getting to some more specifics of your question, I think, you know, I'm a guy that, and we talk about, I'm gonna go back to negotiations. One thing I learned about negotiations and negotiating the city, there's facts and there's how someone interprets the facts. I will tell you a fact that is a fact. 1,000 hours in that sports complex will be free of charge to the community. Let me say that again, 1,000 hours will be free to be used by that community. The other component is, we talked about this learning center concept. This learning center concept is really meant to be at the heart of how does Carlini and her team put together activities within that learning center that tie back to the community. And so what are those opportunities, right? And then the third aspect of, I went up and down Central Avenue and down Mall Road and spent many, many days meeting with business owners. A lot of those business owners are, you know, they provide food type of services. And I've told each one of them, I will make it a point to make sure that you guys have an opportunity to come in to that complex and sell your products with the respective events. So when you talk about community, we're talking about how does the community benefit from using the facility itself? How does the community benefit economically? So when we talk about community impact, that's kind of how we're thinking about this from a programming and how do we tie it all back together.
All right, we got Marcus.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the best times to step in for this conversation because it's about the future. You have mentioned one of the things around community sustainability, and I think it's good talking to the business owners. Is there a long-term plan to ensure that the individuals in that community are being served, not being pushed out? I think it's one thing to cut the deal, and Charlotte knows how to cut the deal. But how do we make sure that after the deal is done 10 years from now, the things that you're putting in place, the 1,000 hours, those things are stabilized? Is there some type of accountability council that you are looking at, or some type of community responsive unit? Can you speak to that?
One of the aspects that we talked about in many of our negotiations with the city was something to that very point where there's going to be an advisory council. That advisory council will be consisted of business representation, community representation, and also political representation to be able to hold us accountable to making sure that the community is not left behind. I think that's a very question that you bring up, because you can cut the deal, but who's there to ensure that those people are not left behind? And so by having that respective advisory council, we'll make sure the community has representation throughout.
All right, Dr. Blanchard.
Good morning, Dr. Blanchard. As a Park and Rec employee for over 30 plus years, and I love soccer, and I thought I was going to be one time. But the problem is, and what I'm seeing is how are we going to be able to make sure that we get some of the kids over there that really need to be over there at that complex. And plus, I hear you talking about a learning center. So what does that look like for children that we need to make sure that need to be in that particular space?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah, so in relation to one of the main reasons why we are very interested in this project, because we do have children that are currently in our programming in that area that are having to drive great distances to our other locations. So, you know, from the standpoint of convenience and from a logistics standpoint, we think it's such a growing area and within our sport itself. And from a cultural standpoint, soccer brings people together. I mean, it's just a worldwide sport, as everybody knows. I know there's a lot of other options to play different sports here in this country, but I think when you look now just at the growth of the game, not only in this country but worldwide, it is a community-based type sport that brings a lot of people together. So it's very important to us that we focus on that, because that area is growing so much within our sport, and that ties in with knowing the struggles maybe for some families financially, while we are opening up opportunities from a scholarship perspective. So as I mentioned initially, we never turn a family or child away who can't afford to play. So we have a small committee that is in our board that reviews applications for financial aid and support, and every year that continues to grow, because, you know, financially it is a struggle for some, and as we mentioned, we're doing over $350,000 already, and we've allocated additional funding through partners and sponsors, knowing that this is a new project for us and potentially there's going to be more children that need that opportunity. So from our standpoint, very important that it is going to be based for people within that area, rather than from outside to offer programming for the locals, for sure.
One thing I would like to add on to that specifically, when we're talking, I think you asked about the Learning Center as well, right? One role that my organization plays is kind of the glue between different agencies and organizations. We have an extremely strong partnership with the 15 CMS schools within our footprint, right? So we're in constant communication with staff on the ground, with teachers, with parents, and this plays into this concept of the Learning Center. And I want to flesh this out a little bit more. Our idea is we're working with Ms. Ivory Canty and the rest of the team is to have roughly 4,000 square feet in that sports complex to serve as a nonprofit programming co-working space. So what does that mean? A lot of agencies that we work with in the community are West Side based. They have West Side, North Side services that they provide. They want to come over here and reach our East Side folks. They don't have space to do it. You know, we've had a number of agencies last year who actually had to pull out or change their funding model just because they couldn't get their staff over here to give those direct services, and they couldn't rely on transit to get our East Side folks over to their places of business. So when we've been kicking around this idea of the Learning Center, the concept, instead of recreating the wheel with another nonprofit, right? Like, you know, charitable giving in North Carolina was down roughly 50% last year. Times are tight in the nonprofit world. Our idea was, let's, you know, kind of subsidize rent for agencies coming in who are doing and meeting the needs of the community in terms of social determinants of health, whether that's youth anti-violence programming, whether that is supports for like Alianza, Despierta. We have so many phenomenal agencies meeting those different demographic needs in our community. So the idea to create this space where folks can come in and do what they do well is how we hope that we can get those youth from the community side in the door to be able to hook them up and access to the other parts of the facility.
All right, we have Ms. Nathalie, then we have Brittany, then we have Ken. Again, guys, please let's keep questions to 30 seconds and responses to a minute.
I'm the timekeeper here. My question has to do with the seniors, me being one of them. Is there something in this complex that I can look forward to? I don't play basketball and I don't play soccer. Yes.
Well, that's one of the things that I want to make sure that we drive home. Is I mentioned earlier that part of this complex will have a health component. Part of that health component will be the multi-skeletal type of thing where there's the rehab facilities and things of that nature. Carlenia talks fondly about some of her health challenges and how she had to drive 30, 40 minutes to do rehab and things of that nature. So we're looking to have more of a physical therapy, rehab type of services within that facility. Again, tying back health and wellness, tying back. You may be a senior, but you still need to walk and get to doing all that activity. So that may not necessarily be basketball related or volleyball related, but we're going to have a health and wellness component in there where seniors can come in and receive physical therapy and things of that nature to be able to live, continue to live thriving.
And other activities. There will be other activities. And Meeting for Medicine has already made a commitment to come into facility, but we will be playing bingo, okay?
What's that game you play every week? Is it Bid Whist?
He knows, well, I think it was too.
Oh,
No,
okay.
there will be activities for seniors.
Yes.
Natalie, there will be activities. And basically, Gray did a good overview, but we plan to we have like robotics and different programs that would normally be in facilities like this. But we are planning to make sure we look at this, and a program might stay for a year, but then the next year we might give someone else an opportunity. So we'll be rotating, and that's not only for youth, but for all ages. Yes, I knew you.
AAU for Bridge and Bid Whist. That would be incredible. All right, Brittany.
All right, my question is very targeted. It's actually for you, Brad. So I have a 2-year-old son, and by the time you finish, he'll be 4. So he'll be old enough to play soccer. I want to understand, I guess, is this project an extension of Charlotte Soccer Academy, meaning your current staff is going to be leveraged to train and build up at Eastland, or will there be opportunities to hire from within the community to train?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, we will be needing to hire. Yeah, this will create job opportunities, not only from the standpoint of on the coaching side, but just in terms of the opportunity to keep the facility from a maintenance standpoint, security, things like that. So to the point with other people on the table, it opens up a lot of economic impact in the community from a job standpoint, as well as bringing people into the community. And we're always looking for coaches. And it doesn't necessarily mean what you can do on the soccer field. We're looking for people that are good personalities, can be good role models. I have an onboarding meeting every year with over 45 new coaches. And our big thing is it's not about wins and losses, it's are you able to create an environment where children love to play soccer, and when they leave, they can't make to practice again. So that's our goal. So opens up many opportunities for that. The growth of the game is so much, we don't have enough coaches already. So it will absolutely be opening up doors for people. Anybody's interested now, please feel free to reach out because we're looking now. So yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go 30 seconds.
Don't worry about the senior program, we'll all be gone before 2 o'clock and the kids get there.
My question. They came to line. They came to line, they can go out at night.
My question is in regards to DEI and funding with federal and state attacks on DEI and inclusionary and cutting back on funding and eliminating such programs. Is this solely local city council dollars? And if it is, tell us about your plans for inclusion and in fact, MWBE components in your overall program.
So that's actually a great question. I've met with the city on many occasions regarding this particular aspect. We have received the participation goals. They're 14 and 12% respectively for minority participation, minority women participation, sorry, 12%. So we've met with them on many occasions, and we plan to far exceed those goals. I don't want to make this be a politicized conversation. Are we talking about DEI in particular? No, but we have our participation goals, and we know as a group we're going to far exceed those goals in terms of how we participate and how we be able to engage with local minority businesses. My challenge, my challenge back to those minority businesses is make sure you're on that list that the city has to be considered a minority business to be able to be part of this project. And so that's the key component to the challenge back is make sure that you are listed as a supplier with the city to be considered as a minority business.
Shout out to half the room in here. All right, Jasmine, and then Cedric. Cedric, then Jasmine.
Hello, my name is Cedric. I want to thank you all for coming and being a part of this event this morning. But my question is more about faith-based and working with the communities of faith. I'd like to hear from each one of you on how you're going to point to the faith community and get them involved in the community and make sure it happens. You, yourself. Thanks.
You want me to start with that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So on a monthly basis, what we do in the footprint that we're calling the Greater East Side, we have monthly nonprofit and faith leader stakeholder meetings virtual. Anybody can join 3 o'clock, second Wednesday of the month. Our website, charlotteeast.com, you can get the link. But what we ensured when we were advocating for this project was that those houses of faith, not just directly proximate, but further down Independence, everybody who's going to be really impacted, either their congregation or the folks that they served out in the community, had a role in being able to ask those questions and get participation as part of that advocacy project, right? But when we talk about actually community use, those will be our anchors that we rely on largely from our standpoint to ensure that their congregations and their folks can get access to the facility, right? Because information sharing is huge. And that's a role that we are going to rely heavily on our faith community to do. I mean, we have some phenomenal houses of worship. We have Hindu centers. We have, just the diversity of our community is beautifully represented in our houses of faith. So I'm actually extremely excited about what their participation is and what it will be in the future.
Yeah, I would just echo what Greg has just said. One of the things that when we first started this project, we actually tried to participate with some faith-based community partners. And so we were definitely wanting to get the faith community involved. And what we will do, and myself, your local church, the church you attend, engage those folks. Let them know that the facility is available and they can bring their kids over to it.
All right, let's hear from Soil and Water.
And the seniors.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Carter. I represented this area for 12 years on city council. Diversity, health, well-being, quality construction and offerings, transportation so people can get involved. If you take out trees, if you do stormwater mitigation, will you put those replacement properties within the east side? Number one, will you give people to get the opportunity to get out and be safe when they walk and enjoy your premises? We've seen plans come and go. We need continuous commitment. And we need people saying to you what they need to have. So thank you for the advisory council, and will you be listening to them?
First, to answer your last question, will we be listening to them? There's a man to the right here. I've been listening to him for about 18 months. And so part of that aspect is constantly, thinking about what we're doing at the facility, and we're thinking about the east side. So will we be listening to the advisory council? You best surely believe it, because we would not be here if it wasn't for the Charlotte East and all of the east side supporting us. I would say the east side community, we talk about negotiations again. There's soft negotiations, there's loud negotiations. So the Charlotte East community negotiated well for us in terms of how they represented at each one of those 3-hour meetings on Monday that I wish I could have back in my life. And so when you ask, will we be listening to them? It is heartfelt for myself and others, especially Chris Collins, who's not here. He's our team out of Boston that's going to be constructing the facility. We were all astonished and amazed by just how the city of Charlotte, or the east side of Charlotte, showed up for us, and we plan to continue to be able to listen to their voice.
All right, we have Jasmine, Robert, Donnell, and Elise.
Good morning. Dealing with somebody who recently lost their leg, and this question kind of came from a group. Just wanted confirmation in regards to your accessibility ADA kind of things.
Yeah. that goes without saying. I mean, there's an ADA component embedded within each of the construction of these facilities, so that's something that we will be considering for sure.
All right, Donnell. Excuse me, Robert.
Good morning. First to Charlotte Soccer Academy, I want to say high praises. I have a nephew that's played with you guys since he was about 7, and he just aged out. He had a great time there, and you guys did a great job with the scholarships with him. With that being said, you mentioned the demographic of the area. The demographic of the area being a lot less than the rest of the county. How does that look in the sense of people being able to afford it? And also with me being from Chicago and seeing different cities and living in Nashville as well, seeing different cities, when they put something really nice in the area, gentrification comes in really quickly. So what is the plan for that?
I can speak to some of the housing patterns, at least up front, and that doesn't answer the whole question about gentrification because, our side of town is the most unique, most diverse that we have in the city of Charlotte. And I'll claim that for the east side, specifically the greater Eastland area, because largely of our superpower, which is our diversity, right? What I will say from a residential displacement standpoint, within the next 2 years, there are going to be roughly 2,500 units residential developed within 0.5 miles of the Eastland site. A number of those are going to be earmarked for income restricted, right? So I'll say in our entire 70,000 person footprint, we have around 3,300 units that are already being funded either through the city or the state for affordable housing income restricted. Actually, 128 right across the street from Eastland that just opened at Albemarle Landing. Granted, does that solve it all? No, not at all. And I think when we talk about business displacement, that's a different conversation that we really want to have our business owners lead, and we're developing and organizing that over the next 2 years. What I will say is we definitely still need more opportunity for jobs. I mean, with this accompanying development aside, not on their parcel, but on the other parcel of the site where they're going to be roughly 450 to 500 residential units, we're only getting 16,000 square feet of retail, right? And we need more opportunities for folks to be able to work in their community, be able to have living wages in their community.
All right, Ms. Darnell.
Okay. You mentioned that your timeline for breaking ground would be around 2027. My question is, with a program of this magnitude, when is your hiring process? Who manages or handles the hiring process for people who want to be employed at a facility like this? When does it begin? How is it advertised and all of that?
No relatives.
Okay. I hate that it's coming now. If I were younger, I would have definitely been interviewing for a job like this. You can use a retired person with my expertise if you need to.
How many rebounds are you good for?
That you asked a question that Carlene and I just discussed about 2 weeks ago. I gave her a call on Friday. I've been talking to her so much on the phone, I don't even realize when I have trepidation in my voice. And I said, Miss I need to come talk to you. So she said, come on, baby, come to the house. So I get there and I say, I need help. And I think from that standpoint, meaning that I was on a call with the city. Not gonna talk about what the topic was. It was just more project management type of stuff. And this whole concept of an owner's rep, we've been having very much so within the project. So once we start to, get a formal action plan and project plan together, there are gonna be certain milestones and deliverables where we're going to reach out to certain up and coming individuals or thriving individuals in a particular space to lead those efforts. That will be an opportunity for those individuals to be compensated for assisting us with this project. This project will not be done by just the 4 people sitting up here and the 6 people counting the 2 that are not here. We are going to have to bring on people, in a very, synchronized and strategic way to help us with certain initiatives. So there will be opportunities. I don't know the answer yet in terms of how we're going to post those opportunities, and maybe that's something we can have an offline discussion about. But there will be opportunities for others to join this particular project and help us with certain initiatives.
We invited today, anytime I get an opportunity to talk to people, I do. I think I met a young man, I forgot his name, but he's here today. Staffing, he owns a staffing company. So anytime you have an opportunity to meet someone who might be able to help us, we're leaving our names and telephone numbers so that you can get in touch with us. When we talk about being inclusive, economic opportunity, that's what we want to do.
And if I could just touch base, I know Robert mentioned 2027. Obviously, from the field's perspective, we're hoping to be open earlier than that. So we are already, because we built a facility before and know the needs, we're already behind the scenes, already putting together what our employee tasks are, and to Robert's point, figuring out how we're going to get that out into the community to start looking at the hiring process.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I added, everyone write down eastlandsports.com. That is a landing page that we have. In that landing page, there's a job form that you can fill out. In that job form, you can explain how you would like to be involved in the project. So again, that's almost a recruiting tool that we're using for either vendors or anyone that has a skill set that they would like us to consider for the project.
All right, we have Elise.
Hi, my question goes back a little bit, a previous question, just want a little bit more detail. I know Robert and even Rob, you talked about anti-displacement for businesses and residential. This is regards to business. Can you maybe specifically talk about any initiatives for the businesses like that might be from third party, or maybe the city is helping to do maybe facades for the businesses, or even some type of funding so that when this project, something of this magnitude comes, people talk about, gentrification, but these businesses being able to stay competitive and look like what everything is looking like with the new development. Has there been anything that you can speak of specifically about help for business displacement?
You want me to?
Yeah, you guys.
So specifically with facade improvements, you familiar with the city's Corridor of Opportunity initiative? So city, actually, the Economic Development Department, one of their projects under that bucket is facade improvements, right? So they're actually investing in that heavily. I know we're working with one of our primary consultants this year as we flesh out how do we combine and, organize this business community. A lot of the folks that we're relying on are the folks that have helped get things going in historic West End, right? So there's some precedent there with what they've done, being able to help our small business owners navigate some of the permitting processes, the application process. We're bringing that in now. Like, we're starting our canvassing efforts actually next week. And really hope over the next 2 years, we have a two-year annual work plans in place to get a steering committee of roughly 25 small business owners in the community organized by the end of Q3, actually beginning of Q3 this year, and have a footprint of roughly 125 small businesses that are storefront and non-chain in the area that are retail, that we really want to ensure they have every access, not just to those opportunities like facade improvements, but that we help them directly plug into the folks that are going to be coming to town, right? Because the whole goal of Eastland, from a community lens of what we always wanted, we want folks who come to the site to be the draw, but to spend their dollars in the community, right? I mean, our folks have been waiting for 25 years, small businesses that are thriving. What we hear, they want more folks to come in and see the phenomenal stuff that they're doing. But I can give you the direct contact for the facade improvements if you'd like.
All right, we have Ms. Nancy Stroud.
I'd just like to make a comment. Last night, I was looking at a photo that's I was looking at a photo that's 50 years old. It was my daughter at Eastland Mall in the ice skating rink with a certificate in her hand. She was about 3 years old. I'm looking forward to the day that I can bring her back to Eastland Mall. I don't know about getting on the skates because she's already 3 or 4. But I'm just excited about the plethora of opportunities that are in store as a result of this project. So thank you all.
Ms. Stroud, very quickly on that point. Actually, guys, Eastland opened July 30th, 1975. This is the 50th year anniversary of Eastland, so it's perfect timing, absolutely.
So I have a question. What is the long-term, what is the strategic plan for Eastland Yards and the imprint that it will have on the city and the local community? In your wildest dreams, 20 years, how does the east side, or how does this corridor between Central Avenue, Albemarle Road, and just those two, how does the immediate area look to you if a successful Eastland Yards is activated?
I'm talking to you. You want to start? I can start with that. You want?
Can I say something?
Please.
Okay.
Ms. Carlene, you here every week. You know we need these microphones.
My goal is, I keep going back to a viable learning center that is going to provide positive opportunities for our kids and activity. I want those kids to be trained and that they will be paid a minimum, and you know, I have to go raise money. $15 an hour. They come with their pants up and belts on, and I know they get upset when I say that type of stuff, that we're training our youth, and that we eventually, we're not gonna just have activities where you play basketball. You need to learn to be a commentator. You need to, there's all type of other job activities associated with sports. This is a sports complex, but there's just being a good citizen. And I plan to go from Batesford Road and Uber over there every day just to watch and see, because I don't have an employment where my husband has told me I'm not being employed over there. But I'm gonna make sure that that's a viable learning facility that provides positive activities, and I want to make millionaires. It can be done. This is a $1 billion industry. Look it up. It's a $1 billion industry, and we plan to make it a state-of-the-art facility. So who asked, you asked that question? Yeah, that's my vision, my dream.
You know, Winston, just so you know and everyone knows, we are actively working with the CRVA in booking out this facility. So when you talk about the strategic vision, our strategic vision is also aligned with the city of Charlotte and the Regional Visitors Authority in terms of how we book out this facility. But I also will say from a personal standpoint, I've traveled in probably every sports complex east of the Mississippi. Most of it is following my kids around, but in that, I've been to places that are nothing like Charlotte. I'm talking about cities you don't even know of. And everything that I've heard and talked to people about is the sports complex came first, and then other businesses came. And so with that being said, I view this from a strategic standpoint as being an activator where things like hotels and other retail chains decide to come to the east side area, not just because of the sports complex, but also because of all of the work that Crosland and other developments are doing in that area. So I think of the strategic vision as being more so rooted, not just in the sports complex, but in the other, other activities, other assets as well, but also thinking about the standpoint that this is in the center of Charlotte. Most of these other sports complexes are in cities I've never even heard of. And so with the concept of it being in such a major metropolitan city, I think it's going to be, from a strategic standpoint, going to lead to windows and windows of opportunity for everyone.
Go ahead and give that website so we can all be millionaires. What was that where we can sign up? Ms. Carlene already said it.
It's eastlandsports.com.
All right. And we have a question from, who was it? Ms. Who we get next?
I wasn't on staff, but.
Oh, all right. So back here, then we have Laura, and then we're out of time.
My question is real quick, and it came in from some homeowners in the area online. Will the sports complex, as it stands now, have greenway access?
To answer your question, yes.
All right, Laura.
This is more of an observation. I just want to applaud the group that you were able to put aside your differences to come together for the common goal of Charlotte-Mecklenburg County. When I moved to Eastland, it probably was still had 2 years in existence before the mall closed. I did experience on the ice skates. I fell a couple times because I'm not coordinated. But I just want to say, from a social economic standpoint, to applaud the groups that are sitting here today, to put aside your differences, to come to the greater cause of Charlotte-Mecklenburg County and do what's right, to continue to bring social economic to the area, a workforce development to the area, to make, regardless of what side of the city you live on, it's prideful. When I wake up every morning, if I'm an East Side citizen, I want to say I have the same opportunities if someone who lives on the south side of Charlotte or the north side of Charlotte. So I just want to commend this team here, but it's always led by a great mastermind.
Female.
Yes, a female, yes.
All right, we're going to let Ms. Louise close it out before we go into announcements. Wait, we got another?
No, what I wanted to say, it wasn't hard at all to come together, right, Brad? I mean, it was just instantly, because I really did like their project. And I said, oh, that's not a bad project at all. So it was very easy for us to come together and work together. And I too want to say thank you to them. I know one of the things that initially was proposed is an amphitheater. And they, you know, people said, well, I don't know if I want all this noise. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, we're gonna have a blues show. I don't tell Greg now, you know, over there. We're gonna have rhythm and blues. Y'all probably too young for that. And, but we're not going to have it every day and every night. But there are things that we're gonna do to bring this community together.
All right, somebody get Johnny Taylor on the phone. All right, Ms. Louise, close us out.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're going to do to make this, the uniqueness of the area, both the history of Eastland, because we had the same experience, except I didn't really, but also the worldwide diversity that we have on the east side, which is unique, is something to showcase for the whole city, and particularly pride in our area.
Greg, take that.
Thank you. So the history question first. I think I mentioned this, but you know that wonderful logo on your shirt, which is our organizational logo that we use, that will be the splash pad at Mecklenburg County Park. It's going to be a 20 feet across diameter splash pad for the kids. It's going to be at the base, because it's a terrace thing, so when you look down on it from central, you'll be able to see it, but the playground funnels into it. So that's one piece of the original local history. I think Robert alluded to some ice skating potential partnership with using some of the fields in the future for seasonal elements. But one thing I really want to lean back to when we're talking about the cultural elements, this learning center space is going to be filled with agencies on a rotating basis that do meet the unique needs of every community in our footprint. At least through the partners that we have now and the partners that we will continue to have. You know, from my standpoint, I'm extremely confident that this whole team sitting here, as well as Southern Entertainment and Edge, are invested in the vision of our community and the current makeup of our community, and continuing to foster economic development and prosperity for every member of the East Side.
I tell you what, keep that microphone. Each panelist give us up to 30 seconds with a closing statement.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
And give us reminders your
Yeah,
name,
sorry.
each panelist.
Greg Asciuto, Executive Director of Charlotte East. I'm ecstatic, again, just echoing the same things. Grateful for these folks for seeing the opportunity that we have in the East Side and our East Side people. And I'm excited to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, I'll just say the same. Let me say, one of the questions was, would we be listening? We definitely listen. This was a collaborative effort between this development group and the community. the East community was fantabulous. And that's the reason this guy is sitting up here with us at this table today. Yes. Even though he's not a direct part of the development team, he is an intricate part of the journey that we've had here. So thank you for having us, and we've enjoyed it.
Robert Bolton, managing partner of Bolton Ivory Cantia. Again, thank you guys for having us. I think it's interesting when Raymond gives the what you call an 8-year timeline. I think, you know, more of these type of opportunities to get out in the community to engage different teams and different respective groups would be great, just because I want to make sure that everyone that has a question or has any interest has the opportunity and has access to be able to reach out to us. So thank you for having us.
Brad Wild, again, Executive Director for Charlotte Soccer Academy. Just to echo, these guys extremely excited about this opportunity. Please feel free to check out our website if you want to know a little bit more about our organisation. It's just simply charlottesocceracademy.com. And as we already mentioned, you know, our process is beginning a little bit sooner from the field. So if there's an interest in opportunities to be a part of an employment standpoint when those facilities are open, coaches, we are always looking, and would love to engage people sooner rather than later, as well as programming. If you have children, grandchildren that have an interest in the sport and want to get involved a little bit earlier than when the facility will be open a little bit closer to home, you're welcome to reach out. But any additional questions about our organisation, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and you can find me on the website. Thanks very much.
I want to say thank you to the city, to the county, and also to the Tuesday Morning Forum for giving us an opportunity to be here. Again, wave your hand if you've already done a letter of intent. If not, please go on the website and let us know how you can contribute to this project. That is very, very important. Thank you.
All right, please give the panel a round of applause. And if this is your first time visiting us at Tuesday Morning Forum, we do this weekly. This is very nuanced information that you just can't pull from the internet. So come every Tuesday at 8:30. And next month we are getting into our Black History Month programming. And we are starting on February the 4th with each Black elected mayor in a panel discussion. Harvey Gantt, Anthony Fox, Patrick Cannon, Bilaus, to share their experiences as mayor. After that, we have something incredible. I ain't even gonna tell you yet, but please, we do this every week from 8:30 to supposed to be 9:45, but we'll get out of here at 10. So join us. Thank you so much. Dr. Thomas, play us out.
Facilitators for Tuesday Morning Forum, can I invite you to, can I get a picture of my ACBA advanced folks with you all? So my ACBA advanced folks and Tuesday Forum facilitators, can I get a picture real quick?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for joining us at Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. I hope to see you back next week. We have all 4 Black elected mayors. It will be an incredible conversation.